All right, so welcome back to our second class, and we left off at some point in our previous class. So we're just going to start at that point and then try and see what we can do and cover as much as possible. All right, so please also put in mind that the task that is available actually requires you that you use this concept which I'm about to show us in this class. So I will urge us to pay attention so we can go back and implement it on the tax, right? Because the tax covers everything for the week, all right? So, and as usual, we are already familiar with the concept, the problem of moving between slides and VS Code. So I try as much as possible to reduce that friction so that we don't get our attention everywhere. So whatever we have to talk about for today's class is available in this slide. And when CodeCamp says you get the slide, you get the slide, right? But everything that needs to be done in this class, I would put it on our VS Code, including notes and code. So everything will just stay there. That way we don't have to move between VS Code and slide and so on and so forth. All right. Okay. So the slide day was just for to let you guys know that this is where we are going to start for today's class. So we'll dive deep to our VS Code and start the class proper. All right, so by now we are already familiar with my process of moving from here to VS Code. So I will go to my terminal, open up my VS Code, and then we start writing the code down there. And like I said, you can do this manually by simply just going to your File Explorer and navigating to wherever you have your project folder and then opening up that folder in VS Code. Anywhere that works for you is perfectly fine. But for me, I just love terminal, so I'll stick to my terminal here. Okay, so I believe you guys are seeing my terminal, but I want to believe. Okay, and as usual, we already established that our project folder would be available on our desktop. So for those that were not there in our previous class, so this is our project folder. So it's here on my desktop. So if I go to my desktop, you can see case 6. So that is that. So some people can just come here and just open up that folder in VS Code, but I'll just simply use my terminal for the purpose of using terminal. All right, so I'll navigate. If I should list out where I am, so I'm currently in my home directory, and you can see I have all these folders within that home directory. So I'll just navigate to my desktop. Remember, that is where our project folder is. So I'll just cd into desktop. Okay. And then if I should list again, I have all the files available on my desktop, and this is where our project folder is, KC6, right? So I'll just navigate into KC6, right? And there we go. So if I should ls this, then you see that we have our previous file that we had in our that we used in our previous class. So I'll just continue with that file. All right, so I'll continue with that file. So what I'll do now is I'll open up this current directory in VS Code. So I showed us all the steps in our previous class. So for those that is seeing this as one magic, I would recommend that you go back and take a look at that video. I took time to explain all this process. All right, so I'll open this in my VS Code by simply using the command code and then dot. Dot means open this current directory in VS Code. So if I do that, I should have my VS Code opened. And so I need to include this in my screen sharing, right? So currently right now it's not showing. So let me go ahead and just include that in this sharing. Okay, so let me see. Let's include this man. Give me a second. All right, so I think we have it there. Hold on, let's see. Let's go ahead and just stop. Give me a second, let me do this and then we share. Let's see what we have. Well, hold on, guys, I'm coming. Hold on, let me see what is happening here. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and just reshare this again so we see what is happening. Let me go ahead and share this again. So I have all this or that, including this. All right, so I believe we are seeing my screen now. Let's go back to my VS Code. So here's my VS Code, right? So it did open, but for some reason that wasn't included in my screen share. So I had to come back and include that so you can see. All right, so this is where we left off, and I think we did a great deal in our previous class. We started with seeing how Python script is being done, and then we said that that in situations where we have a large amount of code base, that using terminal, which I showed us how we can do, and using terminal is not really a good idea, as terminal will tend to execute your code almost immediately when you click on the enter key. Okay, so and we don't want that. In situations, we want our code to finish, like we intend to finish writing the entire code and then everything runs at once and not the other way around. So in that situation, I said about that we can do what? Create a file, any file that ends with .py. It could be any name, right? But as far as that file ends with .py, then within that file you can write your Python script, and you can write as long as possible. So far you see we have about 35 lines, and I can keep writing and nothing happens unless I start executing. So in our as we proceed, this is what we will always want to do, and not the other way around. We don't want to be using terminal. So you want to create a file that ends with what? With .py. It could be any file, all right? And then put in your script there, and then Python interpreter, which is obviously in your device, will do what? Will be able to interpret whatever command is within that file. Right, so that is what we did in our previous class, and then we talked about the print function and one of the tools that is being installed alongside what Python installation. We talked about the input function. I think we talked deeply about this input functions, or especially how they behave, all right, and what the values that come from them, how to store them, and stuff like that. So we also talked about variables, and we talked about data types. So that was where we stopped. And in this class, we'll just pick it up from here, and then we will move further into typecasting, and then conditional statement, because that is your task. It requires you that you make use of conditional statements to solve them. So please, I will urge the word that we pay attention as we proceed. Is there any question pertaining to our previous class that someone wants to ask? Any clarification before we proceed? Any question? Any question pertaining to previous class? All right. So the silence means there's no question, that we followed just fine. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, so this is where we stopped, and I think we said that these were the key rules that governs what variables. And we said that what the variables are basically containers that we need to store value during program execution. So the key thing there is during program execution, because these variables, we need them. Should I say, we cannot stop execution just to store things. So as such, that is why variables are important as far as programming goes. We need to store things, we need to move things, and we need to do data however you want to do it during execution, without doing what? Stopping to move those things around manually. So that's the whole point of variables, to store data or store information during program execution. And then we laid out some important rules as to how you can name these containers, because these containers need to be named, and value needs to be given to them. So in some other programming languages, right, you can create this container without giving them values. That doesn't work in Python. If you create a container, you must give it a value, even if it's a dummy value that you can change, right? Even if it's a dummy value that you can change. So one thing that you should know about variable is that the values are not fixed. Variable values can be altered, right? There is nothing like constant in Python. Python does not have a constant variable. Although other programming languages have a constant variables where you cannot alter the value of that container. But in Python, all containers can be altered, right? All the containers can be altered. So now let's go ahead and let's see how let's just play around with these variables a little bit, and then we proceed to typecasting, and then to conditional statement, being one of the important concepts which will require us to do what? To do our tasks. All right. So this was some illustration as to help us understand that variable names are what are case sensitive. So like you see that already we are having an an error there. If I should execute this code, then this should show that that we don't have um, a, a variable called first name. You can say what name error, first name is not defined. So you could say that that even if we have a first name variable here or a first name container there that holds the value savior, during execution, Python did not still find this other first name. Reason is what this first name have an uppercase of F, while the other one there is what is lowercase. So variables are what are case sensitive. So please most times when you see Python throw an error saying that your variable does not exist and you're looking at it clearly that you've declared this container, right? Sometimes it's casing. So just observe the casing. One thing is it may differ, and that makes those containers what two separate containers. Okay, so now let's move that because that will not allow us to proceed with our code. All right, so now, like I said, this, variables values can do what can be altered. It can be changed. It can be altered. It can be changed. So let's say after I've displayed the name savior, all right, after I've displayed the data available in this container face name to the user, I can simply come here and alter that value. I can simply say let's face name right now be equals to what let's say something else, say KC 6.0, right? And then if I should now come here and say print the new value of face name, right? I should now see what case is 6.0. So it means at line 36, everything that pertains to first name is currently what 6.0, right? But at that before that line, the value within the container is what was savior, right? But at this point, that value was altered. So if you execute this now, then I should have two separate things. Then just finish this thing here, and we have savior. This was the original value, and then we now have what case is 6.0, the altered value. Okay. So one more thing that you likely want to ask, right? For some people that may have some programming experience in some other languages like Rust, all right? In Rust, when a value is given to a container, that container value, even if you want to alter it, it must be of the same type. What do I mean? In other programming language, let's say this container called savior, or sorry, called first name, contain a value, right? This value belongs to what class? The string class. It simply means that in the future, if I intend to alter the value in first name, that I need to also give it a value that belongs to the same string class. But that doesn't work here in Python. In Python, your values can change to whatever class. You can change it from string to integer to float. It doesn't matter, right? Python is not type sensitive, right? So it doesn't really matter which type. So it simply means that I can still come to first name and change this to what to 100. This does not matter, right? That does not matter whether it belongs to string or it belongs to boolean or whatever, right? So it can just be changed. It can just be changed. So he can say what you can say that what that we have savior, and then we now have the altered value called 100. All right. So that is one key concept about what variables. The values can be altered. The values are not permanent. Just know that once you alter it, everything that comes after that alteration, right? Now carries what? Now carries the new value that you've now given that coin. Right. Let's proceed again. Let's proceed again. So back to our input function. So I think we wanted to talk about something here when we left off in our previous class. So this value that comes in from input function. Remember, I said that what every value that comes from input function is a string. Every value that comes from input function is a string. So how do I know this? Or should I say, how do you know this as well? Or how will you guys be able to prove this, that every value that comes uh from from input function is a string? So Python also have another important tool. This tool is called the type function. It's called CYE type. So this function is a built-in function. It is a built-in Python function that basically tells you which class does a value belong to. So let's put this man to a test. So let's say I have another variable here. Please forgive me, I will name these variables anyhow, but I believe that you guys understand the full concept of how variable works. You can give it any name, right? So let's say I have a variable called x equals to value, and then it tells you what which class does that value belongs to, right? So if I say give me the type of first name, right, this should tell me so let me just print x now, yeah, because I need to show you the results, right? That's the whole point of print. Print shows you. If you don't print it, you can't see it. Okay. So if I should now execute this now, and then I said I enter my age and I enter 100 here, you can see that that this man, that this is our last print, that says that that x being what first name belongs to the class of what of 100 of int, right? So this tells us that what that the current value of this container being first name belongs to what belongs to a data class called int. Okay. So let's also do the same thing for what for age. This from the input function. So if I should copy this age, right? And so I'll put here type. Please, one thing that you can do with your print function is that you can print multiple things separated by what? By comma. So you can see what I did here. So here I have a string of type and then the actual value of f of what? Of x. So this is just for reading sake, for readability sake, okay? So I can just come here now and execute again. And if I put in my age again, say I put 100 again, I have what type of what of string. So this type of string here is telling us that what that the type of age being what being the value gotten from where from this input belongs to what to a class of what of string. Even though we typed in 100 as what as integer, you can see that what the Python sees that 100 as what as a string. So that's why I said that, what, that every value that comes from input function is automatically categorized as what as a string value. So why am I bringing this up? So that in situations where you need to work with actual numerical values, you will do what we call typecasting, which is what we're about to talk about, right? So, but then before we proceed to typecasting, is the question, because it seems like I am running. Please, I want to be sure that I'm not running. I am carrying everyone along. Is there a question before we proceed? Question what we've done so far. Question.
Yes, please.
All right. Shoot. What's the question?
I'm sorry, it's
Please,
not
can you
today's
scroll up?
class. So
Sorry?
it's not today's class I'm asking of.
Okay, okay,
After we created the folder KC6,
okay,
then you created a is this sub
a
file or some
subfolder.
sub folder?
Okay.
Uh-huh. Called class one.
All right.
I didn't get
In this file here.
how you did that. I didn't get
Okay,
how
so
you did that.
okay. So what I did was that after I created this folder KC6, right? I opened that folder in VS Code, and this particular file, I just simply click here and add it as class. So there is the add file icon there, right? I manually did that particular one. So if you look at your folder, your VS Code, you would see some icons up here. So here is create file, I believe. Okay, new file, and here is new folder. So I click on new file and then I added that file to that folder. Right. So this file I not add it from terminal, but there's a command that you can use and add file from terminal. Right. So you guys can just go and research on that one. But this particular one I did it manually. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's you also put the .py manually.
Yes. Yes. So class one
Okay,
dot py. Yes. That's what I did.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you,
And,
sir.
all right. Any other question?
Okay,
All
sir,
right.
please.
So okay.
Okay, I don't really understand what you said about the type side.
Okay.
The
Okay.
type statement, abi.
Okay, all right. So let's re-explain that type function again. Okay, so like I said, Python comes with a lot of accessories, a lot of built-in functions, right? A lot of tools and weapons and components, right? So let's just use functions, right? And Python comes with a lot of built-in functions. Just like it came with what with print, it came with what with input. It also came with what with type. So what is the purpose of type? Type is basically used to tell which data class does a value belong to. So remember, I said that Python has about 13 data class. Yes, sorry, 13 data types, right? Which is int, float. I think we listed about five in our previous class, right? So out of all those class, in situations, we may see a value that we as the programmer may think that this value is what is integer, but in reality, or getting to the interpreter sees that what as a string. So the purpose of this step function is to help us as the developer to tell how is Python viewing this data, or how does or where does this data belongs to, right? That is that is basically the purpose of what of the type function. And how does this type function work? You simply just use it as print, right? So, but this one, it takes a value. It could be any value of your choice, and then it does what it returns the class that type, and then that it returns the. So the whole point of putting x is equal and see it. If you don't print it, we cannot see it, right? So that is what type is used for. Now, the reason why I brought in type is because of what of this input function. So I said that any value that comes from the input function is automatically seen as what as a string. So in most cases, most people would want to believe their eyes, because in this case where I type in my age as 100, now we are seeing 100 age should be a numerical value. But you can say that if I should execute this code, the value of x is what, or sorry, of age is what is a string. So Python sees it as a string. So that does the use case of type, and you may likely not even use it in a very long time. Right? But then once in a while it becomes useful, especially when you're trying to deal with data and it's telling you problems, or the data is not being handled the way you expect, right? And then in that case, you need to do a check what type of the data is this. That way you would know if you need to convert it, because that what if you need to do what to convert that data to a particular class that works for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so the silence means I want to assume that made sense, and whoever asked that question understand the purpose of type, right? So type is basically just used to do what to tell which data type a value belongs to, right? So if not, you end up seeing values and thinking that it belongs to this class, meanwhile it belongs to another class. All right. So now, having this problem in mind, because if we try to carry out, let's say, a simple arithmetic calculation now on the value of age, let's say I want to increment, or I want to programmatically add 100 to whatever someone's age is. Let's say you type in, let's say 50, I'll now add 100 to now make your age what 150. If I try to do that now, I will have an error. Why? Is because one is a string, one is an integer. So let me show you what I mean. So let's assume that after you've typed in your age, right? I simply just want to say let your new age, all right, be equals to what? This will confuse us. So let's do this. Let your new age. Don't worry, I'll come back and explain what I wanted doing there. So I'll call this new age, right? So I'll say let your new age be equals to what? The value that you've typed in here, right? That is your age there, yeah? Plus, let's say I want to keep adding 100 to whoever types in his or her age there, right? Now, if I try to now do that, and then at the end, I want to print your new age. All right, so you now see the total of your new age now, yeah? If I execute this code now, you see that there will be an error by putting 100 there, or let's say I put in 50, with hope that it will add 100 to make your new age 150, right? If I click on enter now, You see, we have a problem. And if you look at this problem well, it says what that we can only consider what string to string and not integer. So basically, but sometimes these errors can be very, very tricky. So just leave the error. But basically, what that error is trying to tell us is that you are trying to add a string to an integer. So basically, what Python is trying to do behind the scenes is what is trying to carry your age, which was 50. But then this age is a string. So this is what Python is seeing. Is seeing what is seeing a string of 50 plus 100. So those two things can never add. You can never add a string to an integer, right? It doesn't cannot just work, right? So that is a problem. So as such, there is room for what there is need for what for the type function, because in that case I can check what is really happening. What is the value, or sorry, what's the type of what of age? In that case, this type will tell me that age is a string, right? So as such, I will not need to do what to convert that string to a proper integer, which now leads us to our next subtopic called typecasting. Type uh type Typecasting. Someone mic is on. Is there a question? Someone mic is on. Is there a question? Christopher, your mic is on. Do you have a question?
Hello,
Okay.
sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, Stephen.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I, like you told me, I downloaded VS Code. Right now, I've downloaded VS Code, but I'm trying to do along with what you are doing. But on my VS Code, I'm not seeing a place for execute.
This button here.
Yes, I'm not seeing it on my
All right.
laptop.
So
I'm just only seeing.
all right. So I said in our previous class that in order to have this button is basically coming from an extension called Python. If you click on this place in your VS Code, right? This is an extension bar. You can simply come here and install all these extensions that I
I
have done
can't,
what
sir, we
installed.
can't
This
see.
particular button is coming from this man, I think. It's coming from Pylons.
We can't see
You
your
guys cannot see
screen.
it.
No, no, no,
You
no.
guys can see my VS Code.
Reduce it. I think the font is too big. Probably you just reduce it so we can.
Okay, font is too big. Is that okay?
Well, from our
Are you
own
guys
end,
seeing it
it's
now?
okay. It's okay.
All right, so let me just list out
Yes,
what you guys have. All right, so what you can do once you click on that extension section, just search for Pylons. So Pylons is an extension that will help you to have this button. Once you install it, that button should now be there. Yeah. So just search on Pylons. You can also install Python. Python is also an extension. So it gives you these beautiful colors, like this print color. You see, and this type color. That's basically what this man does, right? So all those things that I just thought that you can just add it just just install them, right? Just install them. So those are the two extensions that you have to install, and you have that play button there, right? You have again. It's looking too tiny. All right, if you've done that and it works, yes, I think it should be Stephen. All right, so let's proceed. Okay, so typecasting. What exactly is typecasting? All right, someone's hand is up. God will. Is it God will or God's will?
Hello, sir. Please,
God
can
will. Your
you
hand is up.
take the font size back to the previous size? It's now too small for us to see.
It's not too small. Okay, so let's zoom this out. All right, is that better?
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. Okay, let's proceed. All right, so typecasting. What exactly is typecasting? So typecasting is basically converting a data from one class to another class, just like that young man, age that went and stayed in the string class. Age should never be a string, but for some reason, because age was being collected from the input field, Python automatically gave it what? A wrong class. So there is need for what? There is need for typecasting. So typecasting is just was changing a value from one class to another class. Also keep in mind, just because you can change a value from one class to another class doesn't mean that you can change all the values from one class to another class. Please, you cannot change all the values from one class to another class. The value that you intend to change should somehow have a close, should I say, a close availability in that other class. So what do I mean? I can change a string of 100 to 100. They're almost the same, right? Just the difference that one has string and the other one doesn't have string. But I cannot change a string of savior to integer. There's no equivalent value for savior in integer form. So you get. So please, um, keep that in mind. Just because you can change a value from one class to another class, it doesn't mean you can change all the value from one class to another class, right? But you can change, let's say, 0 to false. Already false, so it just look like 0, right? So you can change a 0 integer to false boolean. You can change a true boolean to 1 integer, right? So those kind of things, they have to have an equivalent value in the other class, right? So please, you cannot change everything, right? You cannot change all the value, but you can change some values, right? You can change some values. So let's proceed. So how do we typecast, or how do we convert, or how do we change? So it's simple. The same, like I said, Python comes with so many functions. You don't have to cram all these functions. When you keep using them, you just keep knowing them, right? So Python have all the built-in data type functions, right? So remember, we have what we have, print function, and we have the input function, and we have the type function. Now we have functions for every data types. It means that the integer class have their own function, and the float data type have their own function, and the string data type have their own function. So it means that if I want to convert someone from string to integer, it's simple. Simply go to integer class and do what, and carry the integer function and wrap around that value, and then that value is now becomes what, a converted value. Same thing happens if I want to move a value from integer to strings. What do I do? I simply go to the string class, carry their function, and do what, and wrap around that integer value, and that value now becomes a converted value of what, of string. So it's as simple as that, right? So it's as simple as that. Like I said, Python is very simple and very straightforward, right? There is no complicated things. So everything is just too direct, way too direct. Okay, so then let's list out all these functions. So for integer, we have the int class, the int function. Sorry, all these functions are what, are lowercase, please. So we have the int function. This is the integer data type function. This function is what you will use to convert any value to what, to integer. Now to float. This also what, this also the float function. And this is the function that you use to convert any value to what, to float. Same thing what with string. String also has its own what, its own built-in function. This man name, that function name does what, convert any value. It could be from integer or float to what, to string. Same thing with what, with bool. From the name bool, it means that what, you're converting from what, from any value, from any data type to what, to a boolean data type, right? So please, I rephrase again. Not all values can be converted, right? Whatever value that you intend to convert, that value you can, please, we cannot convert savior. You don't go and try converting someone's name to an integer value. That name does not have equivalent integer value, but you can convert a string of someone's age to what, to an actual number, right? So please just keep that in mind. We are converting, right? So these are just the few of them. So like I said, Python have about 13 data types rather, and each of them has their own built-in this function, right? This data types function. All of them have it. Now, the purpose of this function is what, is to help you do the conversion. You move one value from one other class to what, to the current class. So let's see how this thing works in action. All right, so I'll comment on that again, and you can say comment is what, control slash, and that will comment everything. Control plus slash, and it will comment everything, or you can just do one by one with this hash sign, right? With that hash sign, but that is way too stressful. All right. So let's look at this. So now remember, if I should execute my code again, let's execute this code one more time. If I execute this code again and type in the value of 100, remember we have um, eh, eh, we have an instruction here, right, that simply says check for the type of what of age, and then do what show us that type. So if I run this code now, I should be able to see that type. Okay, so we have a box somewhere, this man. Where is it? There you go. Wait. Okay, there it is. This man is the one that's causing the problem. Please, let's comment on that man out because we are trying to add a string with a number. Okay, so let's come again and let's run this code one more time. So if I put 100 here and execute, now I have what? I have x here being what? Telling us that the value of 100 that we just typed belongs to what? It belongs to the class of what? Of string, which is what we are seeing here, right? It belongs to the class of string. So now how do we now convert 100 to actual integer? Because that is what we want. We want to be able to do that conversion. So it's simple. Because I want to convert to integer, what do? I simply go to integer class and carry their function and come and do what? I come and run around the age value. That's simple as that. So let's do that now. So I will leave this man and I'll call this before type, okay? And then I'll now show us again the after type. So let's print again after the conversion time, right? So after type, after type. So like I said, your print function can print more than one thing at a time. Just separate them with commas, right? Separate them with commas, and it will print all of them all at once. All right. So here the after type here would simply be what? Would simply be I'll call this y. I'll call this y, right? I'll simply call this y, or I'll simply just say yeah, y is equal to what? X. Remember x age y is going to be what? Y is going to be the int of what? Of age. So remember I said that what? If you want to convert from one class to another class, simply go to the class you want to convert to, carry their function and do what? And wrap around the value that you want that wants to be converted. So in this case, I've carried the int function because that is what I want to convert the value to, right? And then I'll wrap around what? Age. Age being what? Our value from where? From user's input. Yeah. And then finally, I want to show us the type of what? Of y. So now I've now saved that conversion in a variable called what? Y, and then I can simply show you what the type of y now, right? So if I should come here and say type of y, so this should now give us the converted type of what? Of y. So if I should run this again, let's close this now and run this again. I should now have what? 100. So I should now see the string version, and then I should now see the converted version. Okay, so if I click on that, I now have the before type was what? Was string, and now the after type what? Is int. So it means that what? That Python has successfully converted that man from the string class to the integer class because that man was what? Was in the wrong class before. Okay, so now we've moved that man from string towards to integer. Now we can do what? Now we can carry out any numerical value with this number, and because what? This value now has now been converted to what? To a number, and numerical or arithmetic expressions or calculation can only work on what? On numerical values. Does that make sense? Do we understand?
Yes,
Do
sir.
we understand? All right, fantastic. All right, so basically again, because we are writing too much code, the whole point of being a programmer is try as much as possible to not repeat yourself. Like try as much as possible to write your code once and once, right? And don't have your code scattered all over. Okay. If not, in the coming future, that code will start becoming very, very terrible. And to look at it will start giving you headache. So please, excuse me, what I want to do is that now that we've understood rather the concept of converting. So I can simply just go back and just do the converting here in this my input. All right, I can just do it here. Now remember that that any value that this input here is basically telling Python that the value of age is going to be a value that will be typed in, right, from the input class, sorry, from the input function, right? And remember, Python sees every value that comes from input function as what? As a string. So because this is a value that will be typing and it will be a string, so remember, I can just do what I can just typecast here. So remember, the class that you want to typecast to, carry that function class and wrap around the value. So in our case here, this will be the value when the code executes. Remember, this value here is dynamic. So it's not yet there, but it will be there when we execute and user the word type into that place. Yeah. So what do I do now? I can simply come here and just carry my int and just wrap around the input. So it means when you collect that value, just convert it one time. That's basically what it means, right? Just convert it one time, right? So that way, I don't even need to come and be doing the conversion again down there, right? So I'll collect and convert it there once and for all. So if that is the case, it means that if I should uncomment on this my code, it should work just fine. So I'll simply just say your new age. I'll come here again. Your new age is now your new age, right? I'll just show you that new age there. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's run this code and let's see. So if I run this again and then I type in 100, or let's say 50, I should now have your new age is okay, sorry. There's a bug. Okay, so this should now be age and not string of age. So you copy this man. This is what we want. So I was just using this to illustrate how Python sees the value of age, right? So I want to come back and replace this with the actual value of the age. Okay. So if I run my code again, then you see that what I have 50, and then I now have your new age what is 150. So because we've converted, now both values are what are numerical values. So as such, we can carry out arithmetic operation on them. Question about anything that we've done so far. Typecasting, variables. Question, question, question.
Yes, I have a question.
All right, what's the question?
Yeah, that's you use the integer function to wrap around the input.
Input, yeah?
So how does one know that the input doesn't come before the integer function? What is the priority? How do we prioritize the one that comes first and one that's comes
Okay, last. All right. So basically what happens when you wrap a data type function around an input, right? So what comes first is that your input execute first, right? So the inner one execute first, and then that value is now passed to the what to the data type function, and then that does the what the conversion. That's basically how it works. Okay, so because Python knows that this man takes in a value, and Python also knows that this input is what will get that value. So as such, the input would execute first, and then once you are done, the value is now passed to the int function, and then the int function now does what? Now does the conversion. Is that okay?
Yeah. Also, what in a
Is
case
that
where we don't? What in a case where we are not dealing with input and function? Let's say we have
all right?
print function.
All right, the print function. All right, so
Mm.
because the print function is not holding any value, because basically print function shows value, it doesn't hold, right? So it just displays, so it doesn't collect, it doesn't store, right? In that case, that will be an error. You cannot typecast print function, right? But well, now I understand your question, right? You're trying to ask whether are we typecasting the input function itself? No, we are typecasting the value that comes from the input function, right? That's basically what we are typecasting. So in a case where we are using print, no value is coming from print, right? Instead, values are what are being shown with print. So print is not collecting any value. So there's no value that have been given to this function, and this function of work cannot this function cannot convert what it doesn't have, right? So as such, Python will throw an error there. Do you get?
All right. Right.
Do you
Thank you.
understand?
Yeah.
Yes. Any Any other question? But let us try that, right? So, and one thing I always tell about it is that if you are curious, see, because programming is about curiosity. Most times, I just think about something, I'll be like, what will happen if this happens? And then I just go ahead and just do it and see what happens. Because if I don't do it, I will not know what will happen. So let's do it and let's see what will happen. So let's assume that we want to typecast what that we want to typecast the print. So let's say here I have height. Let's assume that I have height. This is around height. I think that is how it's spelled height. Okay. So then I want to typecast this man to int again. But this time around I want to typecast print. So let's, for the purpose of curiosity, let's see what happens. And then I say hello world. Well, it might work. Who knows? Let's see. Okay, so execute this now. I believe. Okay, so if I should enter my age, so that means we are now here, right? We are currently here at our point of execution, right? So if I type in my age and click on enter, I should now enter. I should now move to the next command, right? So if I type in, let's say 50 now, and click on enter, voila, we have the error there. So you say that argument must be a string, a bytecode object, or a real number, not a non-type. So you can see that print is not returning any value. Print is not holding any value. So currently print what is a non-type. So there's also another non-type is a data type in Python. So remember I said that what the Python have about 13 types. This is another one of them, non-type. Non-type are basically the type that has no value. They're just valueless. Right. So basically that's what happens when you use print. So print is not returning any value. So we cannot convert an empty value or something that does not exist. So that is the error there. I believe we've justified your curiosity. Who asked the question? I believe that has answered your question. Yeah. Is this still with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Though I'm trying to do one other thing on my own. Though when I'm
Please
done
do
with
it.
that, I'll still.
No problem, please. I always ask people to try things, right? Even if you know that this thing will not work, just try it, right? And see what happens. Okay. Any other question? Well, the young man is trying new things. Any other question? Any other question before we proceed? Any other question? Okay, so the silence means no other question. So far we've done what we've talked about the input and the output. Basically, that's how a system works. A system works as input and output because you cannot just have just output without what input. So both of them plays an important role in system development. And we've talked about data type, we talked about typecasting, we talked about variables and so on and so forth. Okay, so next we want to talk about some operators that we have in Python, right? But before that, I think someone's hand is up. Anita, your hand is up. Question.
Yes. I was inquiring,
Okay, what the question?
how do you read errors?
Please,
Okay,
we
how
are
do I
not
read
hearing.
errors?
Yes, how do you know that
Can you guys hear
this
me?
is how I can correct the error and this is what it is trying to tell me to do? That's what I
All
want
right.
to know.
Okay. So let me show you that. Okay. Is my font too small? Because I think someone is saying that my font is small. So let me zoom this. Sorry guys. I didn't even knew that font. Is that okay? I believe that should be okay. Yep. All right. So how do I read errors? So it's pretty simple. Once I have an error, let's have one error somewhere. Okay, let me bring this man up. So once I have an an error, errors are usually at the last part of whatever long message that Python would show you. So I simply just scroll to the last and then read it there. It's always there, right? It's always there. And the error at times are not like straightforward English, they are somehow complicated. But then if you look at it well, most times it tells you the reason or the problems. Most times it tells you in a very funny way. So you don't have to go back to, or most times it points the particular line. Most time it tells you the reason why these things happen and so on and so forth. But the whole point is that once there's an error, I simply go to the last part of that error, right? So I leave all those up ones and go to the last part. The last part is always the one that holds, and last part is always the one that holds the please. So the last part is always the one that is always the one that holds the almost, let's say almost like plain English. Okay, so let's see. So if I have like 100 here and have like okay, so let's see what this man has done. So you can see that we have all this long trace back, blah 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 blah. But I'll leave all those parts and then I'll go to the last part. So this is the last line, and this last line already are telling me the error type. Don't worry, in the future we talk about types of errors. So for this error here, I'm seeing error type. So it means that that there's something wrong with a data type. Either wrong data type or a wrong usefulness or what of a particular data type. So in that case, I can just read the detail, but already this type already have given me a hint that that is something pertaining to value and its type. Okay, so then I just simply come here and then I just read this one. So this one at times it may not really make sense, but if you look at it carefully, it may make sense. So here it says int argument must be a string. So remember, this one here actually put at the line 8. You can have it here, and then you say that what that int this function here. So now you simply go to your line 18 and find this function, right? So this is that function there. So it says argument. Arguments are basically the values that this thing is taking. Don't worry, was we get the function, we talk about argument, but arguments are like the value that stays within that function, right? So it means that that the content of this function must be a string or must be a byte-like object or must be a real number and not a non-type. So this non-type already tells me that the content of this int is empty. This how me I read errors. So I will go to the last part first, the last part of that error, and then read it. If it doesn't make sense, I'll look for what for line. If what is line 18. So I'll simply just go to my line 18 and then come back again and read the last part, right? And then it may make sense. It may. Most times it may not. Most times the compiler might point you to an error that's not even on the current page. Yes, it can happen, right? It can happen. Sometimes the error might not even come from your script. It may come from the compiler. It may come from an external script and so on and so forth, right? So, but basically, the first point of call that you should go to was to have an error is the last line of that error, right? The last line will likely carry some relevant information pertaining to that error. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I don't know who
Yes,
asked the
please.
question, right? All right.
Thank you.
So that's basically how that works. Okay. So, all right. Any other question? Any other question before we proceed? Any other question? I think someone mic was on that time. I can't remember who. All right, so let's proceed then. It means there's no other question. So we talked about typecasting and all those things, and let's look at some basic numeric some basic operators in Python. And of course, operators are grouped into different categories. We have different categories of operators that Python understands. By operators, I simply means symbols that Python understands. So let's start with the basic one and the one that all of us knows and understand, which is the arithmetic operators. This one is very simple. Now this one is very simple. Yeah. So this is basically this sign that is plus. So when you do this is additional. Sorry, this is addition. So when you use that sign, it assumes that you want to add two values, right? Either the one on your left plus the one on your right. So that's basically what that sign there does, and all of us knows that that's what it does. It's the same way you know it exactly the same way as Python sees it. It sees it exactly as additional sign. Okay, so we also have this man. We already know this one. This is subtraction, and we also have we have this other guy. Asterisk is multiplication. Asterisk is multiplication. We also have another one. This one is called is division. Is division. We also have another funny looking one, double of this. This one is basically means integer division. Then when we talk about how each of them behave, or should I say what the difference between this one and the other one, we'll look at it soon. All right, so we also have another one that looks like percentage, but it's not percentage, right? So this one here is called modulo. Modulo. That's basically what it means, right? Modulo. I think is it modulo? Yes, I can't remember though, but that's basically what that man does, right? So the modulo sign, I think it should be you. Sorry, it shouldn't be modulo. Okay, so
Modulus.
so those are the basic arithmetic operators that Python have.
I'm not hearing him again. No.
Sorry,
Hello.
I thought I was the only one that can hear.
I can't hear him. Oh.
Same here, I can't hear him from our end. Please, if anyone can hear, you can just indicate so we'll know if it's a network issue from our end or it's
No,
from him.
it's not
Please.
network issue. Just calm. Let's just calm down. It's coming back.
Can you guys hear me
All
now?
right. Yeah.
Hello, can anyone hear me? Please, I want
Yes,
to be
yes,
sure
Yes,
that
I
you
can
guys
hear
are
you. I can
hearing
hear
me,
you.
okay? All right. Sorry, that was network problem. Uh, the story of our country, yeah, but it's gonna be fine. All right, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so let's continue. So this is the available arithmetic operators that we have in Python, and of course they do what they represent, and they add and they subtract, the multiplication, division, and so on and so forth. So we also have other categories of operators, uh, which is which is we also have we also have uh the conditional operators. So these other ones are the ones that we know on this one. So these other ones are conditional or comparison, right? Or they do the same thing. So we have this man there. We have this man. So and this man here is the greater than. Okay, the greater than symbol. And this other one here is the less than symbol. The less than symbol. And this other man here
Just
is
who is leading
the
this? Sir?
greater
Who
than
led
or
me?
equal to. You guys can hear me? Hello? Hello?
Can hear you, but your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking, sir. And it seems your
All right, so is it better now?
yes, it is. You can hear you, you can hear you.
God. Is it can anyone hear me? All right, fantastic. So
Yes, you can
so
hear
like I
you,
was
sir. I
saying,
can hear you, sir.
outside of arithmetic operators, we have conditional or comparison operators. And these are the greater than sign, the less than, the greater than or equal to. We also have the less than or equal to. So this is less than or equal to. We also have this sign, You guys may have guessed it. It means equality. This one is equality. It means that both sides must be true. And we also have this man. This one means not equal. Okay, not equal. Yeah. All right. So those are just basic arithmetic operators. We also have another category of logical operators, but they're just grouped. Okay. And this one is the and. This other one is the or. This other one is the not. Right. So, so those are the three operators under logical, and these are the one under conditional or comparison, and these are the one under arithmetic. So let's see how we can play around with all these operators and see how they behave or how it is being used. Okay. So let's just go ahead. Let's just start with so what I'll do is I'll comment on everything that we've done so far, or probably I'll create a new file. Let's create a new file as to.py. The first will be experimenting or playing around with operators in Python. So we'll start with the basic one, which is the uh, the conditional
Sorry, sir. Voice.
sorry, the arithmetic have two values called or two. Number one here is going to be a value that we will collect from user. All right. So I don't want to use. Is my voice still breaking? Is there anyone at all that has been hearing me clearly? Is there anyone that have been able to hear me
It's a
clearly
bit
since?
clearer now. It's a bit clearer now. Can hear you now. But it's breaking a little bit. But it's better
Or
than before.
no one has been hearing me, or my voice have been cracking.
You're still breaking.
Working.
Let me see. Let me just give me a few minutes. Let me adjust my router. Let's see what happens. All right. Is it better now? Please tell me it's better. Is it
Yeah, yeah.
better
Yes,
now?
yes,
Can
yes, it
anyone hear me
is.
now? All right.
Yes, you can hear you. It's
Fantastic.
better now.
Fantastic. All right. So like I said, I've created a new file and I've called this file class 2. And in this file, we are basically going to play around with operators in Python. And we are going to start with a very basic one, which is the arithmetic operator. Okay. and uh, and the values that I want to use in carrying out or in testing or in playing around with these operators, I want those values to be what dynamic. So by dynamic, I mean I don't want to give it a fixed value like this, right? I don't want to give this man a fixed value like this. I I want this value to come from where? To come from our user input. So I will not do this instead. So what I will do is I'll simply come here and I'll use int and then typecast. Remember, I want to convert. Now, why am I using int with numbers? So I'll simply say input, and in this input here, I want to collect. I'll say enter or say enter first number, right? Another value or with another container, and I'll call this other container num2, right? Num2, and it's be the same thing, but this time it will enter your second number, yeah. So, those are the numbers that we'll be using to do these things. And by now, you are probably wondering, how do I just know where to start in, because I think that's always one of the biggest problem with most beginners is that they accumulate all these concepts, and then they don't just know how to to structure them. So what I want you guys to do for me, all right, for me and for you, you've done your task, please, your task confess in your spare time. Look at what is called algorithms in your spare time, right? This thing helped me back then, so I believe it should help you again. So algorithm, okay, just look at it. It's a very simple concept, right? So if you grab that concept, then there's nothing stopping you in programming. Algorithm day is basically a step-by-step process of solving a task. That is the simplest definition. It is a step-by-step process of solving a task. Let's say uh, I want to calculate area of a triangle, right? And I knew that what that area of a triangle is what is half breadth times height, right? That's area of a triangle, right? Abi? Okay, half breadth BH. That's area of a triangle. So because I know this, I can simply come up with what with algorithm being what step by step of solving that by saying that what since I already know that it is half breadth times height, that I simply need to collect the value of breadth and the value of what of height. So that means I need what I will need two input function, right? One for breadth, one for height. Then after that, I can do what I can simply carry this calculation, and then at the end, I do what I just print the final result. That's basically what algorithm is. If you can understand the task, you can visualize the step, and once you do that, don't worry, the coding is a list of your problem. So please, in your spare time, please look up algorithm. I may not be able to dive deep into it. And you too, you don't also need to dive deep into it. Just know how to come up with steps in solving problem, and know the concepts in that language that can fit into those steps. Remember, these steps are basically concepts. That's why I said in our previous class, as I said with what that every concept is a standalone concept. No concept is tied to another concept, right? So basically, once you've listed out all these steps in solving your problem, then try and see which step or which concepts fit into those steps. That way, you've solved. You finish 70% of the work. That means 30% is for you to do what to convert those steps to actual coding. All right, so back to playing around with operators. All right, so this is the values that we'll be using to play around with our operators. Basically, we want to see how this operator works in Python. So I'll start with the most simplest one. So I'll say answer being another variable is equals to what? Basically, num1 plus num2, right? It's that simple, right? So that basically us doing what testing out the addition. I'll just simply quickly just print this out, and this should give us the answer of whatever num1 and num2 is. So remember, input functions are values that will come in during program execution. So the values are not yet known. Okay. So if I should execute this now, I have enter first number. If I enter 12 and enter 10, it means I'll have 22 as my addition. So being that we already know how the rest works, I will not even bother to do what to check the rest. So the one that I will jump to now, I'll just simply jump to this one that I believe you guys may not actually know how this one behave in Python. This man, probably this I'll just test this three, the division, the other one, and that modulo there, right? So let's test that three, and then we move to the next category of operators. Making sense? Okay, so let's go and let's see. So if I have this now, so and then I run this again, and I have 20, and then I
Your
have
voice is
two,
cracking again, please.
right? We already know my result is what is going to be by 2. What happens if put 3, right? We already know 6, and so on and so forth. So our let's see. Can you guys hear me? All right, just hold on a bit. Let me check.
Can hear
I
you. Can hear you now.
All right, so you guys can hear me now, yeah?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's continue. All right, so like I said, okay, so we want to test this other operator, the double slash, which is integer operator. Sorry, integer division, right? And we already saw the division operator. So with this, we can already guess what this one would do. So basically, what this man does is that it flings away that fraction and just give you the whole number. That's why it's called integer division. So if I should come here and put 20 and put 3 here again, I should have only 6 as the result. That is what this sign, this operator does. It's called integer division. So it means it divides your two numbers, and then whatever, if that number have fraction or decimal point, it throws away that decimal point and give you just the whole number. I believe that makes sense. Yeah, I believe that makes sense. All right, so the other operator that we have again, and we have this man that looks like percentage, but it's called the modulo operator. So what this man does is that, and this man is the opposite of the other operator. So this man, instead of giving you the whole number or the division value, what this man does is that it divides and then give you the remainder. So this man is most times it's also called a remainder operator. So this man is also called remainder operator. So that is what that man is also called, a remainder operator. So basically, it will carry out the division and then gives you what remains after that division. So if I should execute this, all right, if I should execute this and put let's say 20, and then I put 3. So what this thing here means is that 3 divided by 20, how many is left after that division happened? That's basically what a modulo does. Okay. If I click on enter, I have 2. Now, why is that 2? It's because if 3 should go into 20, it will remain 2 from that 20. Does that make sense? Do we understand how we get to?
Yes, sir.
Do you
Yes,
guys
sir.
are you guys even here? All right. So that's basically how that operator works. Okay. So it divides 20, and then whatever is left, it gives you the remainder. So if you go to 3, I think we should stop at about and that 2, since 3 can't divide 20 altogether, so we have 2 out of 18. So that is how we arrive at 2, the remainder operator. All right, so now let's look at another important one, because I'm trying to let's look at this conditional operator, which is going to be very essential in the next concept that we want to look at. So the remainder operator is basically, or sorry, the conditional operator or comparison operator is basically used to do what? To compare things, to compare both sides of of your values. So we are already familiar with these particular operators now, yeah. So if I should come here and say if I come here and do this, so one thing that you should know is that these operators, they only return they only return boolean values, boolean values. All right, so that's basically what this operator does, right? Once you use these operators, they only return a boolean value, meaning what? Meaning their result is going to be either what? True or false. That's why it's called comparison or conditional operators. So anytime you use these values, or sorry, these operators, the only value that you will get will be what? Would be true or false, and nothing more, right? Nothing more. So let's go and check this out and see how they work. So if I should do this, all right, and then Probably this one, I want to use a fixed value. This one, this one, I want to use fixed value so we can actually see what is happening. So I get
We cannot hear you, sir.
Your voice is breaking again, sir. Your voice is breaking.
Are you guys still on?
Yes, he left. He left the meeting. It seems he's trying to reconnect back due to bad network from his end. But I'm sure, oh, he's back.
Mhm.
Is it still here?
I feel like this gentleman has left.
He's not back yet. He's not back yet. I still feel like he's trying to connect. It's a network issue from his end.
Okay.
Network is showing him Pepe. He's trying to reconnect.
All right, please, can you guys hear me? Please confirm you guys can hear me and you guys can see my screen.
Yes,
Yes, sir. We
we
can
can
hear.
hear you now.
All right,
Yes, we can
fantastic.
see you.
Please, I sincerely apologize for that, for this inconvenience. I have literally moved the four corners of my apartment. I'll keep moving if need be. All right. Okay, so let's continue because we are already running out of time. Okay, so like I said, we have a lot of operators in Python, and one of them is what is conditional operators. And I said that the moment you use this operator, you have just one possible result, and which is going to be a Boolean value, either true or false. So this particular operator does not return values like arithmetic operators like 1, 0, and other stuff. This particular operator only return what Boolean values, so either true or false. And a typical example is what we just did here, where we simply compare or check if num1 is what is less than what num2, and then if we execute this, we have what we have false. False is because of course 20 is not smaller than what is not smaller than 3. Okay, so that's basically how this operator works. All right, that just basically how arithmetic conditional operators behave. Their values true or false. So the moment you use them, you're expecting just two possible values, true or false. So let's use this particular one because I'm sure that you guys already know what all this one would do. So let's try using these last two operators, right, and see how they behave. So if you come here and then if I come here and then I change this to this. So this simply means equal, right? So it's simply saying is num1 the same as num2. So in this case, if I should execute this should be what? This should be false. False is because 20 is not the same as what as 3, right? That's basically what that sign, the double sign, double e- equal sign there means. It means that what check if both sides are the same, right? So if I should change this to what to not equal, so this what because truly 20 is not the same as what as 3. So if I do this now, I should not have what I should not have true, right? So that is how those two operators behave. All right. So check again is that this operator can be used with other data types. So I can simply come here and have the value of hello, all right, and then I have another value of what of hi, all right. So in this case, if I should run this now, I will have what I will have true. It's because what hello is not the same thing as what as hi, right? But if I come here and have hello, I should be able to have what false because sorry, this should be hello. So sorry, hello. I should have false because hello and hello is the same. All right. So in order for this to be true, both of them must not be the same. So if I should execute this, I have what I have false. Right. So that's basically how this man works. Right. That's basically how conditional operator works. If I should do the double sign, I will have what? I will have true. So if I execute now, I have what? True, because what? Hello and hello are the same. Do we understand? Do we understand how that works now?
Yes,
Yes.
boss. Yes.
All right. So if we truly understand, what will be the result of this? True or false?
True.
False.
True or false? True.
True.
I'm
False.
I'm
False.
having
False.
two
False.
opinions.
False.
False.
Yes. Case insensitive.
Is there a case sensitive? Thank you very much. Yes. So it is the pattern is what is case sensitive. So if I do this, this is what this is for, because hello and the other hello are two different hellos. One is capital H and the other one is smaller h. All right. So fantastic. So that is basically how um comparison operator works. And I would love to talk about this man, these logical operators, which is used in conjunction with what we comparison operators. But I want to talk about it now because we're running out of time, and I need to cover the concept of conditional statements. All right, so I'm going to use this small time and cover that concept. So it's not a very difficult concept. It's a very simple and sweet, straightforward concept. That concept uses conditional operators. So because we've now established a proper understanding of how conditional operator works, so when we now dive in there, it should not really be a problem. So let's look at conditional operators. Sorry, conditional statements. Sorry, conditional statements. So I'll comment on this. And let's look at the concept of conditional statement. So what exactly is conditional statement? Conditional statement. Uh, statements. Okay. So what exactly is conditional statement? So these are basically statements that evaluate the or that execute a portion of your code based on a specific condition. So they are specifically, or they are basically rather basically expressions, sorry, statements that execute a portion or that execute a specified is because that portion need to be specified. So it execute a specified portion of your code let me unwrap this of your code based based on a condition, right? A condition. And then you be wondering why are we now bringing condition inside condition again? All right. So let's take this man and look at what exactly is condition, right? What exactly is condition in programming as a as a whole, right? So knowing that conditional statements are basically what they are statements that execute a specified, right, a specified portion of your code based on a condition. So what is that condition, right? What is a condition that or how should we understand a condition such that we can understand why that portion of that specified code is what is executing. So let's look at what condition is. So connection is basically, right, is basically, so like I said, I'll save you guys the stress of moving between VS Code and slide. All these things are there in the slide. So whenever CodeCamp says you can get the slide, you can actually go through all these things. All right. So, but for the purpose of explanation, I have to just type this out here so we don't move. All right. So a connection is basically expression. So what is expression? Let's pause the face. They are basically expression, right? So what is expression? We'll come back and continue from there. So what is expression? So expression are basically um they are basically, how do I put this for you guys? Expression are basically this. They're basically this, right? So let's just do this. So what is this? They're basically things like this, all right? Things like this that returns a value, right? They are basically this kind of stuff that returns a value. So basically they are like I don't want to use statements, right? Because they are not statements. Statements don't return a value. Expression return a value. So this is a typical example of what an expression is. 1 plus 2, right? So when you now carry out the okay, expressions are values when evaluated, they give you a return value. I don't know if If that makes sense. So they're basically something like this that if you add them or if you evaluate them, they give you one single value. That's basically what an expression is. So I could say 1 plus 2 is equal to what? 3. So making this what? Making this man an expression. Right? So anything that does not give you back a value is not an expression. It's right. Anything that does not give you back a value is not an expression. All right. So another type of another example of expression would be what we basically been doing here, right? So those arithmetic calculation or those comparison. So whatever you do that returns a value, right, is expression. Okay, so correction are what are those kinds of things, right? They are those kinds of expressions, but this time around, the expression that must please is a must that must return what? A boolean value, right? A boolean value. Sorry, I'm trying to speed up things so we can at least get a grasp of how this concept works, right? So, but then it doesn't matter if I'm speeding or not speeding, right? If there's any concept that you don't understand, please join me back. I'll come back and explain it, right? There's nowhere we are rushing to. We can still extend the time if need be, okay? But that doesn't mean that we should rush and then no one understand. Please. So if the whole thing is complicating, just unmute and ask the question. I'll come back and do what and explain it again. Okay. All right. So conditions. They are basically expression that must return what? A boolean value. So by this definition, it simply means that the only operators that you can use in this your expression are what? Are boolean values. Sorry, are comparison what? But operators, because that is the only operator that you are guaranteed that when you use it to form an expression, it will give you what? A boolean value. Am I making sense? Please, are we following up to that point? Are we following? Following up
Yes.
to
Yeah.
Yes.
right. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so if I should now carry this understanding of condition back to our conditional statement, I can simply say that these are statements that execute a specified portion of code based on an expression that return a boolean value. That is basically what a conditional statement is. All right. So when that expression is being evaluated and it gives you a boolean value, all right, then it do what it can, and then that value can do what can be used to determine if that particular portion should execute or not execute. That is basically what a conditional statement is. And how do we construct this statement? So remember that this is a statement, so it needs to be constructed with a condition, along with the code that should do what? Execute. So there are three things that we need: the statement, the condition, and the portion of code that should execute. Now, without a conditional statement, by default, remember, by default, Python run your code from top to bottom, everything, right? And in most cases, we don't want our entire code to do what? To execute. Let me show you a typical example. So why we will not want our entire code to do what? To execute. Okay, so let's say I have a value. I'll call this value score, right? And this score value is gonna be an integer value, right? Sorry, integer int, and text in what text the value here will come from where? Will come from the user end, right? So I'll say enter your score, right? And I basically want to show you, okay, to know your grade, all right, to know your grade. So basically, the whole point of this instruction is what is I want to collect your score and show you your grade. All right. So here I can simply just say print your grade is A, right? Your grade, your grade, your grade is A, right? And then if I should execute this code, it makes a lot of sense if I come here and do what and type in, let's say 95, right? And I have your grade is A, and it's fantastic, right? It makes a lot of sense. But what happens when someone now come and then do this and do let's say score is what is, let's say 30? What happened? It still shows your grade is A, but then score is what here is 30, right? So at least I should see like your grade is F, right? So now if I should now come here and say, okay, fine, let's add another print, and I come here and say, okay, let's add another print and say your grade is what? Is F. What happens if I run this code again and then I type in, let's say 40 or let's say 30? What do I have? I have both things executing. Your grade is A, your grade is what is F. Now without conditional statement, that's what happened. Everything executes from top to bottom. And in most cases, we don't want that, right? We don't want everything. At least there should be a portion that should execute. There should be a portion that should not what that should not execute. So that is what conditional statement helps us to do. What helps us to construct. So like I said, in order to construct these things, we need that statement, and we need the portion of code that should execute, and then we need we need the condition, those three things. And then remember, these conditions are what are just expressions, right? They're just expressions that must return boolean value, right? And because they are just expressions that must return boolean values, those expressions can only be constructed with what with the comparison operators, because these are the only operators that it is certain that the result is going to be what a boolean value. If you go and use these other operators, you likely have what fixed values or integer values or float values, which is not which Python has says that in order to construct a conditional statement, that we only use expressions that returns what a boolean value. So we cannot use this man in our condition, or so we are left with what we are left with this man. So let's go back again and let's continue. So how do we construct these things? So conditional statements are of three types, right? There are three key things. There are three keywords that Python has or that Python have put in place. Those keywords are, let me just put it. Let me put it up here. Those keywords are, we have the if, we have the elif, so we have the else, and then we have the elif. So those are the three keywords that we use to construct what our conditional statement. And how does this work, or how does each of them behave? So let's look at how each of them behave one after the other. Let's start with the if. So how does the if behave? I'll start with if. So the if executes your specified portion of code if when sorry not if when the condition is true. Right. So that's basically what if does, right? So it executes that your specified portion of code when that expression, remember, condition is what is an expression that returns a Boolean value. When that expression returns a Boolean value, in this case, specifically the true Boolean value. Remember, Boolean values are what are two, either true or false. So if on its own, if you use if to construct this statement, it will only execute that portion of code when that expression result to what? To the true Boolean value. Are we following up to that point? Are we following up to that point? Are we following?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes,
All right, fantastic. Let's proceed. So now let's see how this is done with what using just the if. So I'll comment on this for now because they're not in Python structure, so it will return errors. So I'll comment on that, and let's come back in and let's look at this man. This is our code that executes top to bottom. So now let's look at this code. The aim is to construct a conditional statement that executes only a portion of our code when the expression given to that statement results to what? To being true. So how do we construct that with if statement? So the syntax or the appropriate language is what is simply starting with what with if. Once Python sees if, it knows that you want to construct what? A conditional statement that should execute a specified portion of code when that expression is what is true. So what does it expect? It expects your expression, which in this case is what? Your condition. So immediately after your if, Python expects what? Expects your condition, which is what? Your expression, right? Your expression. And then what follows after that condition is what? Is a colon sign. Please, this is how Python have ordered us or has specified us to do what? To do these things. So it's just that simple. So now we have the statement, we have the condition. What is left? the specified portion of code. So where does that one come in? It's simple. You simply do what? Go to the next line. When you go to the next line, you have to do what? Indent. By default, Python will do what? Will indent for you. So that portion of code is what comes in the portion of code. And of course, this portion of code can be as long as possible, as far as what? As far as they stay indented, right? As far as they stay indented. Now, once you go out of this uh, of that in the nation, it simply means that is the end of that specified portion of code that should do what? That should execute if this expression becomes what? Becomes true, right? So as far as you stay inside, it means everything inside there will do what? Will keep executing on only what? Only when this portion there or that expression there becomes what? Becomes true. So like I said, this portion of code can be as long as possible. So it can be as long as possible, all right? So as far as it doesn't do what it doesn't go out of the in nation. Now once this happens, it simply means that this is the only specified portion of code. So every other thing here what should stay outside, all right? Every other thing should stay outside. So once you do this, it becomes what? A problem, all right? So once you do this, it means that every other thing that should follow should also come out, right? So if that's not the case, then everything should stay indented, right? Everything should stay indented. Okay, so that is basically how that syntax looks like. So let's use this instruction and let's go on and let's come here and construct it properly. So let's come here and let's say, so here I don't want everything here to keep executing again. I only want to execute A when a certain things happen, right? So here I can come here and do what and put my if. Remember, I'll come here and put my if. So after collecting the score, what do I want to do? I simply want to do was construct my statement. So I say if here, what follows? The expression, a condition that must evaluate to true or false. So now, but in this case, I only want to express and in this case, I already know that if only executes when that expression word is true. So that means whatever I am constructing needs to evaluate the word to true for that portion that I'll give it to do what? To execute. So here I can say if score, right, is bigger than what? Is bigger than or equal to what? To 80. That is my what? Expression. So when Python evaluates this thing and it becomes true, what happens? I want a particular portion to do what? To execute. Are we following? So what follows after that condition is a what? Is a colon. Very important. If you miss the colon, you've missed the whole logic, right? So like if I come here now and put my colon, now what happened? We now have what portion of code should be executed. So here I can say this is the only portion of code that I want to execute only when what? Only when that what? This expression evaluate the what to true. So now if I should come back again and execute and put it into something like 30, what do I have? I have your grade is A. What happened to my grade is A? It did not execute. Why? Because score is not bigger than or equals to what? 80. So this evaluated the word to false. And because if only executes your specified portion, if that expression is what is true. So that is why what this man never executed. So he just move and do what and continue with the rest of the code. And in this case, the rest of the code is what is this man. Do we follow up to that point? It's as if I'm running. Am I moving too fast?
Yes, boss. Thank you.
Question. All right. Is there anyone that have a question that want to ask question pertaining to if before we move to the rest of the statement? Question. Please, this concept is required to do your tax. So if you don't ask the question now, the tax will ask your own question. All right. So Chris, your hand is up. Please
Please, I have
unmute and
something
ask
to
your
say.
question. I know that our time is up. Please just give me 10 minutes of your time and we should done. Okay.
Please, sir, you said this one is required for our
Okay,
task.
sir.
What of our task that is not showing?
Ask,
We are
please
not
ask.
promoted. We can't even
Chris,
see the task.
go ahead and ask your question. Your hand is up.
Okay, okay, sir. I
Okay, so
want
for
to
those that cannot
get
see the tax,
something
you guys don't worry
clear.
once you.
This greater than and equal to
All
8.
right. Okay. Okay.
So I didn't get you. Somebody else was talking.
This
I don't
man.
know.
All right, don't worry. I will answer every question. Okay, so for pertaining to those that haven't seen the tax, it's because you're not promoted yet. So just chill. You see the tax right before today runs out. I believe everybody should see the tax because everybody has been graded and everybody is above their cutoff mark, right? So you see the tax. So just keep calm. The tax is from now to Saturday. Okay, so you will see it. Definitely you will see it either today or failing to tomorrow. It should pop up on your dashboards. Right? Okay, so that is that about that particular question. I think Chris was talking. Chris, please proceed. You say what happened to the greater than or equal to sign?
Okay,
Is Chris still with us?
I just wanted to get
Chris,
something.
are you still
This
with us?
great, yes, I'm with you, sir. This greater than, yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now, Chris. I
The
can hear you,
greater
Chris. Can you
than
hear me?
or equal to, okay, the greater than or equal to 80 if question you drop there, and you said, and you print grade F and use grade A as 30, the thing gave you false. But was it not supposed to be that's greater than or equal to? That means since 80 is above 30, that means supposed to be true. Like, it's not really clear.
All right, so let's re-explain that particular condition. Okay, so this condition here says I want you to do what? To execute this specified portion of code if this man evaluates to true, right? So behind the scene, what is really happening? So when you type in your score, then let's say I type in 30, which is what I did earlier, right? So what happens is that it just take is 30 bigger than or equals to 80. So in reality, 30 is not bigger than 80, neither is even the same as 80. So because of that reason, this returns false, right? So that's how we arrive at false. So we are not comparing 80 to 30. Instead, we are doing what? We are comparing 30 to 80. But if this was to flip 80 to 30, right? Then this would have been what this would have been true. So we need to be very careful how we construct this expression. So it doesn't come out and affect us, right? So if this was the case, then this would have been true because 80 is indeed bigger than what 30. But since this wasn't the case, and it was like this, that is why we have false, because what 30 is not bigger than or equals to what 80. Do you understand, Mr. Chris? Is Mr. Chris with us?
Yes, I understand. But you also said something that if it was flipped the other way around, that means 80 is equal to or is greater than or equal to 30. That means in this case, 80 is greater than 30, obviously. What about the equal to sign there? Does it not really not matter? Or is it that the value must align
Okay.
with one of the integers, they're either greater than or equal to, or it must align with both? So that's what I want to.
All right. So it's basically how that sign is meant to behave. So that sign says greater than or equal to. So basically, it means that if anyone matches, then it is what true. So if it's bigger than, fine. If it's the same, still what fine. So it is or. So there's or there in between, right? So at least one must be true, right? At least one must match. So if it is greater than or is the same, right? So if it's not the same, fine. But if it's bigger than, then it's still fantastic. So because 80 is bigger than, right? Then it is what true. Even if they would have been the same, it would have still been what? Been true. So that's basically how this sign behaves. So it checks, is it the same or is it bigger than, right? So if anyone fits in there, then that's fine. That is why I said that what if it was flipped, it would have been what? True. Because of what? Because of how the sign is. So the sign just check if it is what? Bigger than. right? Or is the same. While the other one, because we have a product of that sign, the greater than sign simply check what if it's what bigger than. So if you use this other sign, it means if they're the same is what false, because this other one considers only what being bigger than and not the same, right? But this other one here also have room for what being the same or bigger than. Do you understand, Mr. Chris?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I understand now. Thank you
Mr.
very
Chris,
much.
are you? All right, fantastic. I think some other person's hand was up. Is okay? At least one other person's hand was up, but I can't find a person now. Okay. All right, then let's proceed. I think the person is good to go. All right, so let's continue. So that's basically how the if construct works, right? Remember, please, this is the syntax. You must follow it in that manner. If followed by what your expression, then what colon. Now, depending on if on what you use. If you use if, it means that that this portion of code will do what will only execute if it's what if it's what if it's what true, right? So but if that's the case, then you're good to go, right? But then let's assume that for some reason, right here, I did not have this man, that this man was nowhere to be found, and this was our only code, right? Now if I should execute this now, and I have, like, let's say 90, what happened? Or let's say 80, or let's use 90, sure. And what happened? I'll have what your grade is A. Is because what score is bigger than what 80 in this case. So we have your grade is A. So let's rerun again, and let's use something like, let's say 30 again. And what do you see? Nothing happens, right? And in most situations, something should happen, right? You can't just leave your users hanging. Okay, just because they them, because that's basically what just happened there. We just left them hanging. So imagine going to the ATM, and then and then you insert your card. Even tell you, oh, your pin is
Your
wrong or not. You
voice is
just so in
breaking,
this
please. Your
case,
voice is
how do we
breaking.
handle Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we
Yes.
can hear you.
All right. So okay, so like I was saying, in that situation, or in our current code setup, it means that if a connection is not made, that the user will left hanging, like nothing happened. Because if I should run this now and put in a value of 30, right? Nothing happened. The code just terminates. That's because our condition was not met, right? And nothing else was meant to execute. So in this kind of situation, I said that it would be nice if you had something else to execute, even if that condition was not met. So in that situation, that is the purpose of the else. So the else being part of our, where is it? Being part of our special keywords here, which is here, right? The else is basically used for what? Is basically used to execute your portion of a specified portion of code when the condition of the if statement is not met. That's basically what the else is used for. So the else does not take any condition. The else is just simply attached to the if to execute a specified portion, when that if condition is false. So let me put it down here, and I put it here and say else, right? Else is basically is used to execute, a portion of code when the if condition is false, right? That's basically what else is used for, right? So having that in mind, okay, I think I'm missing something there. So else is used in conjunction. Let's put conjunction so that we know that is not just used alone. Else cannot exist alone. Else must be attached to if. So it's used in conjunction conjunction with the if
So your voice is breaking again, please.
to execute a portion of code when the if condition what is false. So that's basically what else is used for. So how do we now use this? Because since else cannot be used alone, it means that in an if condition, right? An if statement, and then you can do what attach your else. So how do you attach internet? Please let me connect to your hotspot. Please, okay, just hold on a bit. Just hold on a bit. Let me see if I can switch to my network again. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Can hear you now.
All right, fantastic. Please let's continue so we can wrap it up. Already I've taken about 10 minutes of your time. I sincerely apologize. Please take no offense. Trying to see how I can wrap this up so we can get going with our tasks. All right, so like I was saying, the else is used in conjunction with the if to execute a portion of code when that if condition is what is false. So it simply means that else cannot exist alone. So there must be an if statement first before the else comes in, right? So the else is only attached to do what to execute a portion when the if is what is false. So instead of just leaving our users blank like this, because once they execute and then they put in a value that does not evaluate to true, what happens? The code just terminates. So instead of doing this, we can do what we can attach the else and execute something else when that condition is not what is not met, right? So how do we do this? So because we must have an existing if construct, right? So where do we now attach the else? It's simple. You simply step out of that portion of code that should execute for the if statement. You step out of it, right, and do what and attach your else, right? That's where you attach your else, and your else comes with that
Breaking again, sir.
condition,
So sorry, but your
right?
voice is breaking again,
And it
sir.
comes after how you do that, and then after there. Okay, are you hearing me now clearly? I believe it should be. Is it better now? Is it better?
Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is, sir.
All right. So like I was saying, so this is basically how the else is being attached. So you step out. Please always remember you step out. What is it? Don't go disconnect. Don't go even go command me from meeting. Like, let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. So okay. I think I'm still active. I'm still active. Okay. All right. So this else is what is being attached, right? So you step out of the portion of code that should execute for the if, right? Because the else is not part of that portion, right? So you will step out of it and do what you attach your else. So your else comes in after that portion of code for the if, and then after the else, what follows is what follows. Where does this thing keep bringing me back here? So after your if, what follow is what sorry after your else what follows what is colon and then what and then the portion of code that should execute for the else, right? So now this portion of code will only execute if this condition here is what is false, and if this is true, then this other man does what executes, right? So that's basically how it works. So both of them cannot execute at the same time. One must execute and one must wait. Okay, that's basically how the if else work. So having that construct in our mind, let's go back again and do and handle our else. See, if I come here now, so instead of just leaving this blank, I can simply just come here and say else. else, and then I could just say print your grade is, let's say your grade sorry, your grade, sorry, typo error. Your grade is B, all right? So now if I should not execute this code now, yeah, and then I type in something like 30, and I have what? And I have your grade is B. If I now, so instead of just having a blank system, what happened? Something fired or something executed when this condition was not met, right? And then in situation where it is met, like 82, then what happened? And I have your grade is what? Your grade should be A. So that's basically how if and else work together, right? That's how both of them work together. Else is used in conjunction with if to execute a portion of code to execute a portion of code when the if condition is what is false. Okay? Do we understand up to that point? Do we understand up to that point? Do we have question before we look at the last concept and then wrap it up? All right. So I will assume that we understand up to that point. All right. So the last point or the last part is what is the elif. So you'll be wondering what exactly are we going to use elif for? All right. When if and else already have the job done. All right. But then if you go back again and look at our code, of course, if someone should enter 0 in this our code, what happens? Your grade is what is B, which in reality your grade should not be B. Your grade should be F, right? Your grade should be F, but you're having B. That's because this condition here was not met. So else have no other choice to do what? To execute. So what is elif really used for? Elif is also used in conjunction. So I'll copy this man again and just edit it down here. So elif here. So elif is also used in conjunction with the if statement, right? To execute a portion of code for other conditions. So what do I mean? I mean in situations where we have other conditions that we want to execute a different portion of code for those conditions, right? So these are the conditions that are not met by if condition, right? But then we also want to test for another one, right? And not necessarily 1 or 0. What do I mean? Let's assume that we come into this class, yeah, and now ask us if we are for front end or for back end, and then and I also ask if I think that illustration will not work. Let's look at another illustration. I'm looking for a situation where we can have multiple conditions. Let's see. A real world example. A real world example would be this grading system here, but I'm trying to use something else. But I'm running out of idea. Probably it's because I'm trying to rush, though I cannot really think properly and get you guys a real world example. But let's work with this grade. So let's assume that we have a situation in a working system or in a working school system, right? We have multiple levels of grades. All right. So it means that if you are from 80 and above, you are A. But it doesn't mean that from 80 and below is F, right? It also means that from 80 up to below to a certain point can be B. And then from that point again down again can be C, and then from that point again down again can be D, and so on and so forth. That is basically multiple conditions. Elif is used when the conditions are not really 1 and 0 or yes or no, right? Where we have multiple set of conditions, like what I just illustrated, right? In a grade system, just because you are below 80 doesn't mean you are F, right? It means that is also a portion again that checks if you are below 80 and up to some point is B, and then from that point again up to some point again is C, and then like that to D, and then so it means that the only time you can be in F is that you did not meet any of those criteria, not 80 below up to some point, not C, not D. So that means in that case, you have no other option than to just be in F, right? So that is the case of what of elif. Elifs are used to test multiple conditions, right? They are used to test multiple conditions. So how do we use this? It's simple. Elif is used in conjunction with if, and it is used after your if, but before your else. So it means that I cannot come here and have my elif at the bottom of else. No, and your elif comes before your else. So that means this man has to come here and stay here. Elif, and then your elif takes in condition. Please, your elif takes in condition, right? So it's only your else that doesn't take what, that doesn't take conditions. So if I have that, and then the portion of code that should execute for that man can stay there. So here, I'll come here now and paste this here. And elif can have multiple conditions. Elif can have, sorry, you can have multiple elifs, but only one if and only one else. So I can come here again and copy again and have another condition, right? And so on and so forth. So this is a typical example of what of a full if, elif, else construct, right? That is basically how it looks like. So let's put this into actual code so we can wrap this up. All right, so you guys can go and rest. Okay, so let's come back here and let's see. So here I can come again and add one and add additional conditions. So here I can say elif score is what, score is greater than or equals to, B back then was about 70, from 70, yeah. So here I would say print your grade is B, right? So now we have two conditions, right? The one that check if this man is above 70, and the one that check if this man is above 80, yeah. So if I come here now and execute now, and I come here and I put let's say 90, what do I have? I have A, right? If I come here now again and put, let's say I have 75, what do I have? I will have sorry, I went and closed the whole thing. Okay, so back there, I think 70 was 70 was for A and about 60 was for B. Yeah, back then, um, when I was at school. Okay, so I believe it still work that same way. So if I have 65 here, I should have B. All right, so you can see, right, that just because I'm below 70, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have F. So another condition was met, which is what, any value above 60. And then what happens is that at that point, I'm I don't have this portion of code for what, for that particular condition executing. At that point, that this man did not execute. But before now, it was either you're above 70 or you fail. All right. So in that case, and that works if you have just two conditions or two options, right? Either yes or no. But in situations like this, where you can have multiple conditions, that is where elif comes in. And like I said, a leaf can be can be more than one, but you can only have one if and one else. So I can simply come here again and copy this man, and then do this for what, for another condition. Yeah. So I can come here and put this here, and then this will be what, if you are above or equals to what, 50, and then this will be what, this will be C. Same thing happens again if you are above or equals to, let's say this should be I think back then D was about I think 45, yeah, 45. So if above 45, then your grade is what, is D. And then anything else, so that means if you don't meet any of these conditions, the else have no choice to do what, to execute, telling you that your grade is F, because that is where by default you will fall under. Okay, so let's go back and let's take this out. Okay, so if I run this now and I have something like, let's say 45, I have your grade is D, right? I have your grade is D. Now, if I come back again and try again for, let's say 50, I have your grade is C. If I come again and I try again for, let's say 35, right? Your grade is what? Your grade is F. So that is basically how conditional statement works, right? So they are basically what, expressions, or they are statements that uses expression, which is condition, yeah, to do what, to execute your portion of code when a particular condition is met. Okay, so the if and the elif only executes when their condition is what, is true. Else is only executed when any of those conditions is what, is false, or when any of the conditions have not been met. That is when what, that is when your else do what, execute. Is that understood? Question. Question. Then we wrap it up. Question. Question. I'll be all over the go sleep. Ben has gone and sleep. Ben. Okay, it's
Yes, sir.
active. All right.
No,
Question.
good.
No one's asking question now. Okay, no problem then. All right. So the challenge. Sorry.
Can I see the definition again?
The what?
The place you define a leaf. Let me see it again, please.
Okay. Okay. The elif. So it's used in connection with the if to indicate the portion of code. Yeah. For other conditions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Any other question? Any other
Yes, sir.
question?
Sir, I
Okay. Yes.
want to ask, like, if you have a multiple condition in an if statement, how do you tend to run that?
If we have multiple conditions in an if statement.
Yes. Like in your if, I think now from here you're having one condition. I'm talking like maybe you have like two or three in the if.
Okay, the way that you want to join. Okay, so we did not talk about these operators. That's what these operators is used for, to combine more than one condition, right? But we haven't talked about that. Maybe in our next class we talk about how you can do that, right? But this concept alone is enough to help you guys solve your tax. Okay, so
Okay.
in our next class, we are in our next class we will bring in logical operators, which is their job is to help us do what construct combine more than one condition at a time. All right, any other question? Okay, the silence means no other question. Please, I sincerely apologize for taking almost 27 minutes of your time, additional time. All right, yeah. It wasn't intentional, and trust me, it wasn't planned either. So I sincerely apologize for that, and I hope that in the coming class that we can stick to our time and not extend, so you guys don't get tired. Okay, so I think that is all. In the absence of any other question or problems or suggestions, we leave it there and we call it a night. And you guys
Sir,
go and rest.
the YouTube video for the previous class, I don't think they are online.
Are you sure? I will confirm it myself. I think it should be.
Uh,
It doesn't take that long. It should be. But I'll check it myself. If it's there,
It's
I will share
online.
it.
It's online. The video for the
Okay, it's
previous
online, yeah?
class, for
You
the
see?
Monday class, is
okay.
on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
I will check now because
All
I think
right.
this morning I did.
Okay, please do well to check again. I think that has been done maybe during the day. Okay. All right. So in I think that is all, yeah? That is all. I
I have,
don't think.
I have checked my destiny. It is still not promoted up to now.
Don't worry, I'll speak with the program coordinator and manager, and we will have that sorted out this night. In fact, after this call, I'll just call him straight, and then we see how we can get all of us promoted. Okay? So don't worry yourself. You will definitely you will get promoted. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Uh. Okay. So in the sense of any other question, I'll leave us to go and have a fantastic good night rest, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Please prepare, do your tasks and submit on time, please. All right. So please have a fantastic good night rest and see you guys on Monday. Bye for now.
What time will the tax be dropped, sir? What time will they drop the tax?
Once you get promoted, you will see it. I think it's already there. If not there, it should be there. If it's not there, it should be there. Let's say before 11:50 something. It should be there before today
Okay,
runs
my
out.
my dashboard is still showing not promoted yet. Still showing not promoted yet. So that's what
Okay.
I'm asking.
All right. All right. Don't worry. Once you get promoted, you just get promoted into a new tax. All right, so please don't panic. You guys will definitely see your tax and get it solved. Okay? Please have a fantastic good night rest, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.